All right, welcome to this quick prepping podcast update. And this is about what people are going to be stealing, both in Europe, which we've talked about a lot. And Europe, by the way, they're going to be stealing people's firewood and other things that are combustible. But then also in the United States and other Western countries, as the economy continues to collapse, and it is accelerating by the day, people are losing their jobs, factories are shutting down, there's an implosion in consumer demand, transportation is being sharply affected, inflation is getting worse. I mean, everybody is getting poorer and poorer financially speaking. So people are going to become more desperate. And what that means is that you and I have to become more security minded about sort of ratcheting down everything that we don't want to disappear, because people are going to be stealing things that they normally would not steal. And I can already hear some people saying, after the theft happened or their car was stolen or whatever, and I can't believe it happened in such a nice neighborhood. Because, it used to be a nice neighborhood when everybody had a job, when everybody was making money, when the economy was okay, and people weren't starving. So, quote, nice neighborhoods all across Europe and America and Canada and so on are going to suffer a wave of break-ins and thefts and carjackings and so on. So we have to recalibrate our sense of how desperate people are. Now, of course, on one side of this whole conversation, we also want to be compassionate human beings, and we want to help people wherever we can. And I've talked about that a lot, and I personally have a plan to donate all kinds of things to local churches, for example, and direct people to those churches if they need medical supplies or food or things like that. But that's a different topic. I mean, that's a different podcast. What I'm focused on here is how to avoid having everything stolen, because thieves are going to become more and more prevalent in society. And of course, they're looking for anything that they can easily resell, even if they just resell it on street corners. For example, appliances. There are places right now you can drive around rural Texas, and there are corners of roads, like popular roads, where on any given Saturday, there's a guy selling essentially stolen appliances. And there's another guy selling stolen lawnmowers, on the opposite corner. And here's a guy selling stolen power tools. And by the way, power tools are stolen all the time. Tool sets. You ask anybody in Texas who is a tradesman or tradesperson, has their truck been broken into, or have their tools been stolen? And the answer is all the time. They're getting broken into all the time, because there are basically just looting teams or thief teams that run around stealing everything, and that is going to increase by leaps and bounds. So what can you do to decrease the risk of your stuff getting stolen? Obviously, number one, don't park on the street if you can help it. Park in a garage, park indoors, or at least park in your driveway. Secondly, get some video cameras going, so at least you have some evidence of what happens if people are stealing your stuff. And if you can have a dog on your property that can help sound the alarm, that's always a good thing. And I believe in solar-powered motion sensing lights. They're really easy to install. I've done a whole video on these. You can go to prepwithmike.com and you can see there's a specific brand that I've tested that I really recommend. They're made out of aluminum and steel and solar panels, kind of high end actually. Forgot the brand name right now, but you can find it there. And they're not cheap plastic ones that you buy at Home Depot or Walmart or anything. These you got to buy online. But for less than $100, probably something like that, you get some really good motion sensing solar powered street lights. So somebody walks into your driveway at night, which is when most of this happens, you're going to get the lights coming on. And then if you have a dog, often the dog is going to see the lights and they're going to start barking. So you have a 2-layered alert system with light, the light and your dog. And that's relatively inexpensive compared to like a high-tech security camera system or thermal cameras or anything like that. That can run into thousands of dollars. So think about low-tech but effective security systems. And then also think about thieves and try to see the world from their eyes. Think about what is their assessment of who they're going to steal from. thieves, and by the way, I did a series of like free downloadable ebooks many years ago by interviewing police officers. This was when I was in Arizona, and I was hanging around a lot of cops back then, and I was interviewing them for these books. And I remember one cop who was actually a detective. He was giving me all the, I don't know, the inside dirt on how criminals think and what's their risk assessment and so on. So he taught me a lot of these principles. He says, look, these thieves, they're human beings. They still want to go home at night. It's just that they don't honor other people's private property, but they're still risk averse. So they are scoping out opportunities that minimize risk and potentially maximize return. So if you simply create a circumstance or a situation that makes it look to them like they're going to have higher risk by screwing with your property, they're going to go somewhere else. Now, a dog in the yard is a high risk scenario. No thief wants to mess with, Cujo. I got Cujo on my leg. Nobody wants that. You don't want to show up in a hospital and need stitches. It doesn't make the thievery worth it when you're missing a chunk of flesh out of your rear end. So dogs are really effective at this. But the other thing is just light, as I mentioned. Thieves don't want to be operating in well-lit areas. Now, also, firearms. They do not like firearms, obviously. Thieves do not want to get shot. But if you put a sign in your yard that says something like, I have guns, I'm going to shoot thieves, well, that may also invite them to come in armed and try to steal your guns. So having signage about guns may not be a great idea. You'll have to determine if that's effective, where you are. But certain areas of America in particular, certain areas like rural Texas where I live, or other states, Kentucky or what have you, or even just rural Kansas, rural, Wyoming, Idaho for that matter, thieves don't get very far because they do get shot. And so strategic relocation out of an area where thieves know they can operate with impunity, like, for example, a blue city somewhere in America, moving to a red rural area where everybody is armed, that alone changes the equation of what thieves are thinking. They know that it's a very risky operation to run around anywhere in rural America just stealing from ranchers and country folks, let's say, because frankly, more than half of them are armed. And these days, a lot of them are kind of at their rope's end in terms of putting up with lawlessness and so on, and thieves are going to get shot. All right, one more piece of advice in all of this. A lot of people who live in the country, they're very trusting, and so they don't necessarily take the keys out of their cars sometimes. If they're on a rural piece of property, they might leave their keys in there, or leave their keys in an ATV or a tractor or something like that. Or they might not even lock the doors of their house because, hey, it's never been a problem before. This is a good neighborhood. You might have to start rethinking that. Just having a little more security mindedness. Take the keys out of all the vehicles, even if you don't think somebody is scoping out your place, even if you live way out in the country. Lock your doors. Just make it that much more difficult for people to be able to get in. Think security. And then always, but this is a principle I think people should follow everywhere, that it's legal, always carry a firearm. Get good training with a firearm, obviously. Run several thousand rounds through it so you know what you're doing, understand how to clear jams and do reloads and, all kinds of things, stovepipes, double feeds, and all this kind of stuff. And obviously get some proficiency in your firearms. But don't be the person who is unarmed when, a gun-toting thief comes to your door and says, hey, give me everything you have. Give me all your jewelry. Show me to your safe. Give me all your gold if you're crazy enough to keep gold in your safe. Don't be unarmed in this time. And, the whole point of a pistol is you can carry it with you all the time. You carry it on your hip from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. The pistol allows you to get to your rifle, so you should also have a rifle somewhere very handy in your home so you can get to it, because that's what's actually going to stop thieves cold. Of course, follow all your local laws, get all the proper training, If you've got children around, then obviously take them into consideration, train them to not touch the guns and so on and so forth. I mean, use your common sense on this, but start thinking about beefing up your protection, because more thieves are going to come out of the woodwork as the economy collapses. That's my take on it. Okay. Be safe, everybody. We love you. We want you to make it through all this. We want you to stay alive, and we want you to keep your assets intact and your family safe. So thank you for watching. I'm Mike Adams. You can check out more of my videos at brighteon.com or prepwithmike.com. Take care. A global reset is coming.